Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining this latest episode of Real Talk with Rick, podcast, Eden Prairie podcast, related to and for people who live and work in Eden Prairie. Hopefully, the plan is to interview individuals closely affiliated with the city employees, people who do work in the city, to get a better feel for what they do and their area of expertise, so you get a pretty good feel for that area of the city. I'm really happy for the 50th episode of this podcast over the last 5 years or so, to have Jay Lotthammer, the Parks and Recreation Director for Eden Prairie, to come on this episode. He has been our Director of Parks and Recreation for over 16 years. And this month, in October 2023, he'll be retiring from the profession, from the city. And so I wanted to bring him in and ask him a little bit about his career. His career spans 30-some years, but really only in 2 communities. So he tells us a little bit about where he grew up and his work in Brooklyn Park and his work in Eden Prairie and what he will be doing in retirement. So I hope you enjoy this conversation that I had with Jay Lotthammer. Jay Lotthammer, Parks and Recreation Director, City of Eden Prairie. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
You're welcome.
Yeah. You used to be on the radio yourself, didn't you? So you're kind of used to this type of thing.
I was a Radio Disney and then also K-Fan are my 2 radio shows. So
that I'm talking about, like, you were on.
Yeah.
Like you,
yeah.
What were you on What were you on K-Fan for? What was
K-Fan? So I used to do, so kind of a back life, I used to do a lot of presentations and speaking about upland hunting. And so I would go to sportsman shows and, they'd have the guy with the bear on before me and doing his presentation. And then I would come on and do the presentation of how do you do out-of-state hunting. So I kind of traveled around the Midwest and the Minnesota Sportsman Show, all that good stuff.
See, and I thought I did. That's what I thought,
Yeah.
but I didn't know it was with K-Fan because I don't know if they still do, but it was like a Saturday morning, early morning outdoor show.
So I was it was a Thursday night. We were doing a grand opening at Gander Mountain at the time. Kind of goes back a ways, but they were doing a grand opening. So we were there doing a presentation, and then there was also K-Fan was broadcasting from there, and so we did the interview about kind of what it meant to go hunting out of state and how do you do it and try to motivate people to do those things.
And was that live radio?
Yeah.
I mean, you
live.
can't.
Yeah.
Like, you can't swear, you can't say the wrong thing. Like, here you get away with it because this is not live.
Yeah.
But that can be tense.
Had to be on. Yeah.
What about Radio Disney?
So Radio Disney was probably like 8, 9 o'clock at night after the kids went to bed. They would put more of a parent information broadcast on, and it'd be a call-in show. And so I was in grad school at the time, and my thesis was about adherence to sport, or how do you keep kids staying involved in sport and not dropping out. Yeah. And so I was asked to come on the show to talk about that, and then parents would call in and have questions about their kids getting involved in sports, when's too young, when it's too young to specialize, those kinds of things. So that was kind of a fun one to do.
I mean, that's live call-in radio.
Yeah, you didn't know what you would get. But doing the seminars and the presentations at sportsman shows too, you always got at least a couple guys, usually at the end, that wanted to try to stump you with their questions. And so they get super technical on things and see if they could show that they knew more than you knew.
Oh, so they really, it wasn't something that they were hoping to get informed. They just wanted to make you look bad.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
And what usually happened?
They
were put in their place. Did you put them in their place?
Sometimes I knew the answer. Not all the time, because there's some technical things that they maybe knew a lot more than I did.
Okay, so, good. Yeah. Well, the kind of start is you've done this before. I mean, you've told me that you listened to a couple of these.
I've listened to all but the last one, and I'm gonna get the last one. So, if there have been 50 episodes, I've listened to 49.
Okay, so get this. You've listened to 48. 49 is the one you haven't. You're number 50.
I was
You're
told
number
that I
50.
might be the kind of
You
a
are number 50.
commemorative and a
Yeah.
chance to up the ratings a little.
And just a plug for everybody, what I think is neat about this is you can go back and listen to number 5 or number 15 or number 17 because it isn't necessarily rooted in current events or what happened that week or that month. You could listen to one from a year and a half ago with the building official or the city assessor, and it still applies today. People will be listening to you. They'll be listening to this for the next 20 years. They're going to look for episode number 50. They're going to find you. You will be retired. You will probably be on a plot of land somewhere out west, and they're going to track you down and find you and say, I heard you on Real Talk with Rick.
I would think so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is going to cap the career right here.
And if you do a T-shirt too, and put all on the back, kind of like a concert.
Oh, yeah.
I
like
could-
the
I
50,
could be
50
on
shows
there.
that we've done.
Yeah.
You're number 50. And so thank you for coming on. We've kind of joked about having you on earlier, and you basically have to retire or plan to retire to get on the air. So we had to make sure we did that before you left. As I mentioned at the beginning, you are the city's Park and Recreation Director for the past 16 plus years, but you have worked longer than that, Jay. Where did you get your start, and where'd you grow up, and where were you before here?
So before Eden Prairie, I was in Brooklyn Park, and almost my entire life. I grew up as a young kid in Brooklyn Center, but then when I was in junior high, we moved only a few miles across the border into Brooklyn Park, and so that's where I went to school, went to high school, actually lived there for a good 10 years as an adult when I was working in Brooklyn Park too, and so
Four-star athlete.
no
Four-star.
stars for sport.
Four letters, 4 stars.
Not a 4-star.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Yep. Not recruited at that level.
Not recruited at the D1 level.
No.
Yeah, so from that area, and then basically you're kind of working. What is it, summer jobs in the city that you grew up in, or next to the city you grew up in, right? In Park and Rec. That's what got you into this field. So
Yeah. You know, I had intended to become a physical education teacher and a coach. That was what I thought I was going to do. And when it was time to put my resume together, I had only teaching experience was 4-year-old Sunday school. And so I said, I got to get some real teaching experience to put on this resume. And so that's what brought me to the city of Brooklyn Park as a summer instructor of t-ball, soccer, camp counselor. And that's also kind of what just kept going as a career. While I was there, I was able to go back and get my master's in sport management, and there just became more and more opportunities there for me. So that I stuck around for 19 years, left there as the Park and Recreation Director at the time, and came here to Eden Prairie for another 16 and a half.
So when you speak to like all those young people out of college age that are working on our recreation programs or maybe summer maintenance jobs at the Eden Prairie Community Center, you say, hey, that's where I got my start. And if you are interested in this field and you stick to it, you could be the director of this department someday.
Well, maybe not quite that much. But
Not
actually just had that conversation today with a younger professional that is looking to become full-time and have a full-time position. And, you know, over the years, as those people leaving college or about to leave college have said, hey, can we meet and could I ask you those questions? My answer has always stayed the same, is it takes patience, and you got to recognize it's a long career and getting that good experience in the beginning, because it tends to be in Parks and Recreation, you don't graduate and walk into a full-time job. Everybody's backstory is always, I started here part-time, and I maybe had another part-time job waiting tables to be able to earn enough money. But that's how people get their foot in the door in this profession, is part-time work. They get to know you, and then something opens up and you have a better opportunity to be able to get selected for it.
Yeah. Do you kind of thinking about Brooklyn Park before we get to Eden Prairie? What are some of your kind of? It's almost 20 years.
Yeah.
What are some of your kind of favorite memories from there?
Well, I think it all.
Besides the man who became governor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jesse the Body.
Yeah.
I watched him rock back and forth in his chair for quite a few nights at council meetings. But we just did a lot of cool stuff in Brooklyn Park. When I was there, it was growing. The northern half of the city in the beginning really was just starting to get developed. And so we had a chance to really map that out, make new parks, new athletic complexes. And for me, too, in Brooklyn Park, it was part of my growing up as a 20-year-old and 30-year-old professional and having some really good mentors and coworkers. I still stay in touch with so many of them that it's good memories of people. When I left there, we actually had 68 parks. And I had been to them so many times, and some of them I had remodeled or developed from the very beginning. And so it was kind of one of those things where somebody said the name of that park and you could call it up in your mind, almost the aerial of it and photos of it just right in your mind. And so when I got here, I'd really taken that for granted because I'd never really spent much time at Eden Prairie. And so the name of a park almost meant nothing to me. I had to go visit it on a pretty regular basis just to understand what the makeup of it was.
Yeah. Well, why here? What drew you here then after so many years there?
Yeah, for me, my wife at the time, still has my wife, but at that time, she was working down in Pryor Lake and making the long drive and said, would you ever consider moving somewhere a little bit closer to where she was working? And I had told her that there were only a couple cities that I thought of that I would want to work in as a city organization, but also live in. And those were two criteria that I used to pick out a couple cities. And I said, I know there's some park and rec directors that are getting close to retirement. And so when that happens, let's just see, I'll maybe throw my hat in the ring. And she ended up moving to a different job, but I had also thought about this as an opportunity to see a different organization and really up my learning curve as a professional. And it did that. I'm really glad that I did it just from that perspective, but I'm also glad that it was this city. It was only one of 3 organizations that I really, at the time, thought I would make a switch to. Because I really enjoyed Brooklyn Park, and I felt like I could stay there and do a lot of good things, but I also felt like seeing that other experience, having already spent 18 to 19 years there, would be valuable for me in having a long, good career.
Well, so your wife, she's very famous too, and I hope to get her on a podcast someday because she's a big deal. I mean, in some people's eyes around here, a bigger deal than you.
Yeah, she went to Osseo High School, and I went to Park Center, and so most people will say that gives her one up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We hope to get one of the big wigs at the state of Minnesota here someday in the future. But so you're in Eden Prairie. You come here, and like you said, it's been 16 years now. 16 going on. I don't know if you'll make 17 years, but somewhere 16, 17 years. And I've known you and worked with you for over 12 of those. And there is just so much that has happened here and that's gone on here. I mean, you came into a situation with a director that had been here since almost the beginning, but I think the city was kind of laid out and set out on a really good path. But then you had to spend a lot of time with kind of the reinvestment and the growth. I mean, the community center is an incredible example. I mean, explain really quickly what the community, it's had 2 remodels that you've kind of managed since you've been here. That's one example I think of. Talk about that. Talk about what we had when you were here and where we're at now.
Yeah, we described it as its first evolution was a little more of a swim skate facility, and the pool really was getting outdated from back in the 80s. It had, things were at a point where they'd reached sort of their life expectancy, and so a bond referendum had happened, and that set it up funding to be able to do the first remodel. And so when I got here in April of 2007, construction was just getting started on that. A year later, a friend of mine from Brooklyn Park came down for lunch, and we were in the parking lot of the community center. And I said, when I first got here, we were just standing in dirt, and that baseball stadium wasn't there. The hockey rink wasn't there. The front of the community center wasn't there. And he was like, haha, that makes a good story. I said, no, it was all true. And I remember in that first year here, the amount of pay applications that we were processing to pay all the contractors, it was close to $25 billion to make that. Plus, we had a couple other park projects going on. And it really took that community center to much more of a membership facility or a fitness facility. In addition, it added a gym, which had never happened, and a third sheet of ice, which the Hockey Association had really pushed for. And so that really invigorated things there, and the volume of people coming through really took off.
Yeah, I mean, just thousands of memberships, a place where we have our lifetimes in Eden Prairie and elsewhere, but this is still a place where you can join and have this kind of high quality fitness club experience that maybe you wouldn't have to pay nearly as much at Lifetime. It's much more affordable, but it's more than, like you said, just kind of a small place with a couple small weight room and a one rink. And then the pool.
Yeah, so
the aquatics.
A few years later, we were kind of struggling with the older pool, and some of it was by code and diving boards that no longer were going to be able to be used because of the new code in place. And so we went about a design process to say, how would we add some indoor pool and aquatics facilities? And what ended up coming to be is pretty spectacular, and felt as one of the best around the state too, and appreciated by all levels of swimmers and water users, from the high school competitive side to the lap swimmers to people that want to do water walking, young kids with the zero depth and the play features. And it's really stepped up our game to be able to do really good swim lessons as well. We almost can't keep up with the demand for lessons.
And the slot, remember the water slide that's in there?
Yeah.
You were the first person.
That was part of it. Usually we would have the mayor do something like that, but that one at the time she
said no.
She didn't want to do that.
No.
She delegated it to me.
You went down the slide.
Yeah. But a lot of fun stuff with the mayor's firsts on some of these projects that we've had.
Talk about that, because I when you say that, I'm thinking about pickleball, and I'm thinking about so
especially
Mayor Nancy.
Yeah, especially Mayor Nancy. A lot of those kinds of grand openings were happening, and so like with the aquatics center, we did the community dive in or jump in basically, and she gave the countdown, and then the pool had people all the way around it, and when she gave the countdown, everybody jumped into the pool for the mayor's first splash, is what we called that one. We had the mayor's first serve when we did the lighted courts at Riley. That was fun to kind of have that a little bit staged, but that was a good one. Her and I, when we put paddle boards out for rental, we did the mayor's first paddle board. We had a tire bump. With the mayor of Chanhassen, when our trails linked up to go from Eden Prairie to Chanhassen by Rice Marsh Lake. So that was kind of an official tire bumping.
That was a nice event, because I brought my bike, and you did not bring your bike, but the director of Chan brought his bike and led the park, and the public works director and I on a bike ride. He just off we went.
He was much more ambitious.
He was a big deal. And And then, I think Mayor Case has been involved in the first cricket pitch.
Yes.
And he's active when there's the first pitch of the baseball season.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. The bowling for cricket, that was a good one. He really didn't have much practice or warm up, and that's kind of a unique thing to do.
It was obvious at the time, but they tried to practice with him, but
he did pretty.
He actually did pretty well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think about too. Those are some of our innovations that we have, or some firsts that we have that other people have since followed. Splash pads. We talk about the community center pool, but there is just the Miller Park adaptive play area. I can think of 2 or 3 things that you were involved in where we were pretty early to that and kind of led the way in some of the stuff that we were doing.
Yeah, the splash pad piece, now we're up to 3. Pickleball, we were one of the first to not only, start with the portable nets and courts, but then also have our first permanent courts. And the starring facility that we have is really well thought of from the state level even, not just local.
Definitely. And so in terms of being able to back up what you manage and work on and oversee, then you play. And not only do you play, as your career is wrapping up, there was a special city tournament that just happened, and you were 3 points away. You were 3 points away, you and the city engineer, from taking the employee championship. It was so close.
We were close. There were a couple questionable calls, but
made by your opponent?
Yes,
Really?
But we'll let that go.
We won't use names, but I have played with a couple people that have called the ball out before it even lands on the ground. We're not going to use names.
No,
I
it
don't
wasn't
think those
like,
were your opponents.
It wasn't like that. They
No.
were good. They weren't the fan favorites, though. I think there was some in closeness to my retirement. The people that were sticking around as their games finished were rooting for me and the city engineer. I kind of had that one day of a sentimental being rooted for.
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah.
As the other games ended, people kind of gravitated to that championship match.
Yeah.
And I heard a couple people said, "We want you to win, Jay.
Yeah.
Go, Jay." I'm like, that's awesome.
But what a Cinderella story that just didn't come to be.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was close.
my last city pickleball league
know.
game for the championship and lose by a couple.
I mean, it was so fitting, too, that I've played tennis with you. I've played pickleball with you. And just to be able to call you Jay Lobhammer, because you could just, whether it's a pickleball or the tennis ball, you have a patented lob that you can do. And I heard that your lobs in pickleball were you can play the wind, you made it work, your balls didn't go out, you knew what you were doing.
It was pretty effective.
No, that's really impressive. So just kind of overall, I want you to talk about what's been most rewarding to you, whether they're anecdotes, stories, situations, kind of thinking about what's been the most rewarding part of your job.
Yeah, and you do start to really think about that and look back on it as kind of the career closes here. The people that I've been able to meet and work with, and some of it is staff and our elected officials, but the community members that really embrace what we're doing, and whether they're volunteers for athletic associations or here in Eden Prairie, we've had many people come forward with dollars to say, we want to help you. We want to contribute to the observatory. We had this telescope that had been donated to us, and a great deep space telescope, but it needed to be housed and it needed to have great footings. And so we had a couple come forward and say, we want to be able to help you build that building, and contributed almost all of the cost to that. But there's so many examples of that. The barrier free at Miller Park with the Garvins and the Millers that helped with a fundraising effort and put a lot of their dollars in. Anything we've done at the community center, whether it's the Hockey Association, the Fox Jets, there have been so many fundraisers or naming rights, and people are willing to put their own money forward to be able to make these kinds of projects and programs be able to happen. And so to get to know some of those people, the Sampson family with the Art Center, wow. I mean, talk about some good-hearted, caring people and believing in what it means to have that experience of giving art as an instruction to people and helping them develop their skills. There's just so many people like that out there. And, sometimes people do think about the job as, well, you built this round lake building and it looks really cool and it's going to function really neat. And some of those tangible things. And that is really nice because you can drive by them, you can see them, you can show up at the splash pad and watch so many people and kids and families using it. But then it does come back to the relationships you've been able to build and the people that have touched your life. It's fivefold of what I've been able to do compared to what you get back out of this.
Yeah, no, it's good to hear. I'm thinking when you talk about the people that give to the city you are on pretty much every single council meeting agenda no matter what. And you're on every agenda because you always bring the donations forward. We give you a hard time sometimes because whatever amount of money it is, you want to recognize and have a resolution passed. But it is truly something that the council, others really value, of all those people that give to different programs and events, all the way to, like you said, donating an entire building for an art center. But we always talk about you being the donation guru at all the council meetings, donations for offsetting city programs and towards city programs. So that's pretty neat. Do you, kind of thinking about your career, what do you think's the best piece of advice that someone gave you along the way?
Well, so I'm not a Packer fan, but I'm a Vince Lombardi fan.
Yes.
And a quote from Vince Lombardi that I have carried with me my whole career and shared a lot with others is, things turn out the best for those who make the best of the way things turn out. And it doesn't always go our way. The ball doesn't always bounce right to us. And there's always going to be things that you have to overcome or don't end up like you imagined them. Could be a weather call in our business, as small as that. And so just having that attitude that you're going to make the best of what you have. And there's a lot of things that you don't control, but still having that positive attitude of how you can make the best of it. And I think if you ask some of our staff in the Park and Rec department about what kind of a quote that I would share, that's certainly been one of them.
And then speaking of asking anyone here, what advice would you have, as you move on and leave, for those that are still here or will be here?
That same conversation I told you about earlier today of it's a long life, it's a long career, have patience for a young person getting in. I think all the way along your career that's something that you need to think about, that to be patient, to recognize that it is a long career and it's a long life, and not everything has to happen yesterday. And some things you're trying to put in place to line up for the future, and you never know when that might also come to fruition. And so you sometimes have to be patient with it.
Yeah. And so we won't give your age away, but you're under the mandatory retirement age that you typically see for people. So you've got like a good, I don't know, maybe 30 years.
That's
left.
A long, yeah.
You got 30 years. Yeah. Maybe could be 35 years.
Yeah. I won't even be 100 by then.
No, you won't even be 90 by then.
Yeah.
And so what are you going to do?
Well, my last day is Wednesday, October 18th. And on the 19th in the morning, my truck will be ready to go, and I'll be headed bird hunting. And not quite sure where at this point. Depends on the weather. Could it be anywhere from Montana to northwestern North Dakota, or it might be doing a little grouse hunting in northern Minnesota. Depends on how the weather shakes out. So.
And you've been an outdoors person. We started the whole podcast talking about the show that you did on the radio, and you've always done that. You've always found time to do that.
Yeah.
It isn't so much. I don't remember you taking many summer trips, if any. It would be come fall, late fall. It's my bird hunting and the bird hunting. So you you kind of timed your retirement for that.
It was
Little
part
bit.
of the decision,
Yeah.
to have some more flexibility here this fall to be able to travel or even do day trips too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you've also, I should mention this too, that you were also very active in your field, and you were the president of the State Association for Park and Recreation. And talking about, you mentioned this, the mentoring that you did and working with people as well. So you were involved in that, but you also, you were a professor too, weren't you? Professor Jay for a period of time?
Yeah, so I spent 12 years at Concordia University teaching classes there. I haven't done it. It's been about, it's probably been a good 12 or 13 years.
I think when I started, you were doing that.
Yeah.
And then I said you need to kind of focus on your job.
Yeah,
You seem like you're not.
I was scattered, and yeah. But I would teach a night class there. So every Thursday night, I would leave work, drive over to St. Paul. Before I got there, I would call in my order to Devani's for a turkey hoagie, pull off at Riverside, 25th and Riverside Devani's.
That's right by Augsburg, right?
Yeah,
Augsburg,
right
yeah,
there.
because my kids played soccer there.
Yep.
I know exactly where that is.
I'd pick up my turkey hoagie for my Thursday night meal.
Yep.
Then finish the drive to Concordia, and about 6:30, I think it was, till about 9 o'clock at night, teach a class. They originally got started, they wanted to have a major in sport management, and so they were looking for somebody to do a sport management class to get that program going. I would do that, and then we'd also kind of sprinkle in, added a planning and managing sport facilities class, so kind of a little variety there. But it was really a good time. It was an opportunity. We'd do site visits to parks or sport facilities, and usually they were things that I'd be able to show them the construction plans and grading plans, and we'd be able to talk through it and use a real life example. So it was fun. Got to know a lot of really nice students and neat atmosphere to be in.
Yeah. Well, are you thinking about doing some of that again? You're going to do the traveling, the hunting?
Yeah, I don't know. I am set to do a couple presentations for our state association coming up in the next couple of months. They asked one if I'd had any experience doing master plans or guide plans, and I said, yeah, we just knocked
flip books.
We just knocked one out of the park,
yeah.
And so there's an emerging recreation leaders session that I'm going to participate in on putting together a master plan or a guide plan. And then another one coming up with a different learning group that's more about construction projects and how to determine useful life on equipment.
Okay.
So, so I'll do a little bit of that. I don't know if I'll actually do teaching of classes. We'll see how it goes. I've always enjoyed it, and it helps me learn, and so I'm looking forward to learning more stuff and different things. And
more pickleball and tennis.
Yeah.
And
hopefully more tennis than pickleball.
More tennis than pickleball.
Pickleball's okay.
Yeah. Are you going to play inside in the wintertime tennis?
Maybe. Yeah. I might. We'll see how it goes.
Well, I talked to last night an event I was at with my wife, a former city manager that doesn't work in the field anymore, but she took up tennis later in life and went on a whole trip for USTA beginner league, so you could travel the country.
Yeah.
Doing that as well, or pickleball.
Tennis over pickleball.
Tennis, okay.
Every time.
All right. You seem kind of downtrodden
after the loss.
The second place victory.
Yeah.
Jay, this is your podcast episode. This is your moment. Is there anything else you want to cover, mention, talk about in your time here? Is there any? I'm going to give you the floor for whatever you want to cover here.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
So I would say, what's your best memory of Parks and Recreation in the last, and not the show Parks and Recreation, but the real thing that happens here every day? What's a memory you would share about it?
I love the show. So Jay had said that, early on, I'm going to try to turn the tables and interview you. And here
we go. I mean, people need to get to know who Real Talk with Rick is.
No,
the man behind the curtain.
There is no man behind the curtain. He's at City Hall every day. You can come and find me, but in terms of, if we're focusing on the park and recreation stuff, I think The one thing I'll say again, because you covered this earlier, is there are so many events and activities that happen in the city pretty much every night of the week. It's absolutely amazing that you can go to so many different parks or buildings or activities, and there's always something going on. It's so vibrant. There's just so much that you could do. We had a citywide open house last week, and then this weekend we have the Harvest to Halloween. So it's just amazing how much there's always something. There's some event going on. You've done such a good job with the music in the park. The arts in the park has become a bigger and better event every year. The attendance that we're getting at the 4th of July and even this Harvest to Halloween coming up this weekend, people want to be out. They want to see stuff and do stuff. And then I just walk around anonymously and enjoy it. So
there you go.
Yeah,
but,
that's good.
But one of my memories, and as you know, that not all of my jokes get laughs. A small percentage do.
And when they do, it's a big surprise, and it's just awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I remember when we did the pool grand opening and the community jump in the pool, that I was speaking, and
Yep.
I was there in my swimsuit, and Rick was there in his really nice suit and tie. And I remember telling people that we had coordinated that we were both going to wear our suits, and that you kind of misunderstood, and that got a laugh from.
That did get a laugh.
People.
No, when you, and I don't think you thought through that joke. It was just in the moment. So, credit to you for just kind of coming up with that. When you kind of workshop it at home and you don't talk it through with people, and then you kind of play it out and then it bombs.
Yeah.
Those are tough, but I think you've been really good with kind of the off the cuff, some of the quick stuff. I've seen a lot of growth.
Yeah, I would agree, because the ones that bomb the most, I think, are the ones that I've kind of rehearsed.
And they're drawn out a little bit.
Yep.
And
maybe I forget kind of the key part of it too.
Yeah.
That would maybe help it land and be funny. But,
yeah, like you'll have a joke, like the joke that bombed, for instance, is like in front of 100 people. You tried to tell a joke about like a mayor and a city manager, and
got to have a police chief.
A police chief are in a plane, and the plane's going down. It's going to crash, and then you just kind of forgot the rest of the joke. It just fizzled out.
Yeah, it's like the Girl Scout with the backpack. I had forgot about her.
Right. I'm just, where is this going? And so, that's
people are really understanding. And
they are.
They were really kind.
They are. No,
maybe gave just a little half chuckle to make me feel better.
You do. You get a lot of sympathy laughs.
I think so.
I get that. I think that's important, because it shows that they're rooting for you and wishing for the best. Anything else, Jay? Again, thanks for coming on, and good luck with the next chapter.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're going to have some fun on Wednesday at a little, we'll have cake and then a little retirement party.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to being able to thank a lot of people and see some people that I haven't for a while. But
so for that, and we're very excited about it. Do you have rehearsed jokes?
No.
Okay, good.
No.
Good. But I think you're going to say something funny. It'll just happen.
Well, you never know, but I've learned my lesson, so nothing rehearsed. Nothing written.
There's going to be current boss will be there. Your former boss will be there. Your two former bosses ago will be there. People have been waiting for this.
Yeah.
And this is probably the best retirement party you could ever go to, when the person who's being honored is buying the appetizers.
Big spread.
A huge spread.
Yeah.
And the reason that you can make a big deal out of it is by the time this podcast comes out, that party's over.
Yeah.
So we tell everybody, the entire community, all 50,000 listeners to this podcast can go to that party. It'll be over by then.
Yeah. So we're setting it up to be an amazing party, and that's what history will show, whether it is or it is. And I know my mom's coming, and like you said, a couple past supervisors will be there too. So there'll hopefully be a couple people, but I am looking forward to seeing quite a few people that I've crossed paths with over the years and have made a big impression on my life and have been really supportive too. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your service here and your time here and your work here. It's been incredible. And thank you for probably the second most important thing you ever wanted to accomplish before you retired was to get on this podcast.
Yes.
You did it. You did it. Like the fire chief's been on like twice.
I know.
The two former police chiefs.
Yeah. But to be on the commemorative 50th,
Yes.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But then when you think about it, there's 49 other people that he wanted to talk to before me.
I know, but you made
It's
it.
kind of sad.
Yeah, but we waited for the big one. I'll bring it back for the 100th.
Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah?
I'll be around still.
Yeah, you will. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you.